Hey, nature photographers, it's Lee Hoy once again, and I am so glad to be seeing you this weekend. I will let you know that about the last 3 or 4 weeks of my life have been something interesting. So as some of y'all know, when I was in the Galapagos Islands, my bulldog Blitzen died. Then when I got home up here on top of the mountain in West Texas, my water pressure pump had gone out. Then I had to buy a whole new set of tires for my truck. And what I realized is my life is just like a country song right now. Like if one more thing happens, I'll have a 5-verse country song that'll probably be in the top 10. So it has been an absolutely wild ride. But I tell you what, I'm still excited to come to you. You know, all those things aside, I love what I do. I love getting to share my passions, my enthusiasm, my love for photography. And it's a beautiful morning up here in West Texas, man. Got down close to upper 50s last night. So the sliding glass doors are open. The back French door's open. Got a beautiful breeze. Temperature's a delight. Need my beanie to keep that old bald head warm. So I'm glad to be with you guys today. Listen, what do you think? I got a question for you. You ready? What do you think is the biggest challenge or obstacle for a nature photography getting better and capturing visually compelling images? What do you think is the #1 obstacle? Okay, so I'll tell you some that I hear from people. A lot of people go right to megapixels. Well, if I just had more megapixels. Well, let me tell you what, it isn't how many megapixels you have, it's what you do with them. Okay, a really crappy shot sucks at any megapixel, plain and simple. So it has nothing to do with megapixels, I 100% assure you. A lot of people think it's because they're autofocus. They can't get focus, or you know, they're having struggles with it. I will tell you, I've had some comments on the last video where someone said, have I been having the single autofocus point issue with the OM1? I never had an autofocus issue with the OM1 on anything. It is phenomenal. No, I don't really have issues with most of these elements, other than like some of them I talked about in the last video, because I know how to set up autofocus. I understand all the settings and how they have an impact on how to acquire it. So no, I didn't have that issue, and I don't believe it is an issue. And oftentimes when it comes to autofocus problems, it's generally 99% of the time it's probably the user. Probably 99% of the time. Maybe that's a little high, but it's up there. You know, I talked about some of the things with the OM1 Mark II, and believe me, I know how to acquire autofocus, but most of the time, guys, it's us. It's not the camera, most of the time, because we haven't learned how to take advantage of certain situations. Well, a lot of people think it's going to be that it has to do with understanding your exposure, nailing your exposure to the right, which exposure mode is best. And you know what? That's not the biggest obstacle. With live highlight alerts and live histogram, nailing your exposure has never been easier. It's almost made it secondary when it comes to photography, right? You know what? Here's another one I hear. It's about having better lenses. I tell you what, better lenses don't hurt, but I see a lot of people with very expensive lenses whose imagery sucks. Doesn't matter how expensive your lens is, okay? It helps if you know what you're doing, but that is far and away not the biggest obstacle, okay? You know, some people think, well, if I could just go here, I'd be able to get better images. Place has nothing to do with it. There are so many things around for nature photography, whether it be macro, birds, landscape. You can find great photography generally pretty close to home, okay? Even if you live in a city, you can find some great macro opportunities and probably some birds. So, no, that's not the biggest obstacle you're going to find. Is it a lack of post-processing ability? Now, I'm not going to lie. That lack of understanding impacts a lot of images, but that is even close to the biggest obstacle, okay? All of these things are certainly issues and things we want to address, things we want to learn, things we want to master. So what is the biggest obstacle? Stick around, you're about to find out. Howdy from West Texas. I'm Lee Hoy, professional nature photographer, and this is my YouTube channel, Lee Hoy Photography. I'm an OM System Ambassador, photography workshop instructor for Wildside Nature Tours of Precision Camera and Video, and contributing author for the Journal of Wildlife Photography. All right, so what exactly is the biggest struggle, the biggest obstacle that most nature photographers face? And I'm going to tell you, having been out in the field a lot and seen and encountered a lot of photographers using a lot of different systems, time and time and time again, this is the #1 obstacle. They have not mastered their system. That's right. That's the biggest obstacle. They go out and buy multi-thousand-dollar tools, but they don't learn how to use that tool. They don't learn how to manipulate. They don't learn how to control. They don't learn how to understand that specific tool. And you know what? Just because you buy a camera in the same system doesn't mean that you've automatically mastered the very next camera you buy. It might help. It will definitely help. The more you understand and the more you know your current camera, when you do choose to upgrade, it'll make it easier. The less you understand and the less you've mastered your camera, the harder it's going to be, okay? So most photographers haven't mastered, and they don't have an understanding of various elements. And one thing they often do is they try to make their mind fit the camera. So if the default on the camera, say, is having increasing shutter speed is to go left, and their mind doesn't think that way, they just keep fighting it, and they'll go the wrong direction at first, then they go back the other way, instead of realizing they can actually change what direction does what with dials, okay? They don't understand how to manipulate a camera to fit their mind, their physical nature, right? For some, like for me, back button focus is a no-brainer. But I had a lady with horrible rheumatoid arthritis, and you know what? She just could not do that with her thumb due to physical pain. And that's understanding your limitations, your abilities physically, and how to make your camera fit that, okay? Well, if you don't know how to take advantage of all the features and settings and controls in your camera, you're going to be beholden to those limitations every time you go out in the field. How do you identify people that haven't mastered their system? Here are some of the phrases I tend to hear. There is something wrong with my camera. Now, about 0.1%, maybe 0.01% of the time, there truly is something wrong with the camera. Most of the time, bad news, it's you. And that doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you ignorant. It doesn't make you anything. If you stuck me in a F1 race car and told me to drive, I wouldn't know what the hell I was doing. I'd probably kill myself in the first 100 yards. Not that it wouldn't be fun. Don't get me wrong. But the fact is I wouldn't have mastered an F1. I've mastered my Ram Rebel pickup. Boy, I know how to handle that thing getting up and down my road out here to get to the house. But I'm not a master of that. But I am a master of my camera bodies, okay? Other things I'll hear is, oh, I didn't change anything. Well, I got news for you. It's pretty rare that a camera changes a menu item, a setting, a function on its own. That just really doesn't happen, okay? And by the way, y'all know I'm probably going to step on some toes. I may hurt some feelings in this video. And if you know me, you know I don't care. You understand that I'm here to teach. I'm here to push you to be better, and I'm not going to coddle your way to greatness. I'm not going to coddle you to visually compelling images. I don't believe that works. Now, again, I was raised with coaches yelling at me to do great in sports, and the fact is when I was doing great, there was encouraging attaboys, and when I didn't do great, Hoy, what is wrong? Get your butt in gear, And that's the way I go. That's the way I roll. And I know some may not like that approach, and that's okay. Find someone else who's got a different YouTube channel. You're not going to hurt my feelings, okay? So another thing is when things are going wrong, they just start pressing more buttons faster. I have literally had to grab clients' hands and move them away from their camera and say, if you don't know what's wrong, quit pressing more buttons. You are creating more problems. And some of you are laughing, thinking that's not you, and it may well be you. I see it all the time. When you don't know what is wrong, quit pressing the buttons. Another thing that's evidence of this is they can't identify when something is wrong or different by looking at icons in the viewfinder or on the rear monitor. Okay? They don't know, they don't say, uh-oh, I haven't seen that icon before. Maybe I should hold up. Or if the camera's doing something, they don't recognize what it's doing, and they have no way of knowing why that's different. For example, if you go to high-res shot accidentally, right, on the OM1 Mark II, the red record button by default is high-res. And you see people posting on social media all the time and other places, I try to take a picture and I just get this busy line and I don't know what's going on. I can't take more pictures. They haven't mastered their system, right? As soon as you see that busy, you know, uh-oh, what'd I do? Okay? So they don't recognize the behaviors that they tend to do repetitively, like getting your lens out of a camera bag and accidentally hitting one of the switches on a big lens. You know, it takes time to get familiar with, uh-oh, I probably should check those every single time I pull my camera out of my bag. And they for sure don't understand the limitations of certain features. Like y'all hear me, I did the video on SH2 drive mode. But if I have to get above ISO 16000, I got to go down to silent sequential. All right? And understanding the limitations. It's one thing to understand the marketing from your camera brand and all the hype and the highlights. That's awesome. But it's the footnotes that teach you the limitations. For example, once you switch to focus stacking, right, you're going to drop to 1/100th of a second for your flash sync speed. Well, if you set your exposure based on 1/250th a second, the highest sync speed for your flash, your exposure is going to be wrong. You know, if you were shooting single image and you said, well, this is my exposure, I'm just going to leave it and go over, your exposure is going to be wrong. So you need to take those kind of things into account and understand the various limitations that features are going to apply. For example, you still need to carry, even though we have built-in neutral density filter, you still need to carry one, because if you're trying to use another computational feature, you can't also use the built-in live neutral density filter. Okay? So knowing that means if I'm going to certain places, I might still want to take a physical neutral density filter with me. All right? So when we're taking a look at these different elements, there are behaviors I see in people that are clearly evidence. In fact, one is they're always looking down at their camera instead of looking out in the field for subjects. Always fiddle farting around. And you know, another thing I know when people, a lot of people who haven't mastered their system, they're chimping. They want to look and see if they got something. Once you master your system, you know you friggin' got something. The question is, which one's the best one? You don't have to be chimping. Not that I get that sometimes it's fun, but why not be looking for the next phenomenal image, right? And I realize there's some personal opinion on that. Great, have a ball, chimp your ass off. I don't care, but I'm telling you, I'm trying to teach you how to capture more visually compelling images, not how to sit momentarily and get delight. Because how many times have you chimped and thought you had a great kick-ass image on the back of your camera, and then you put it on a 27-inch monitor and your focus is just slightly off? And then you're going to watch videos on YouTube about how to fix shitty shots. Quit doing that. Quit doing that. Learn how to capture great images, all right? So what is the solution, right? And, oh, here's another example of someone I know who hasn't mastered their system. They asked me, what should their autofocus point configuration be? And they don't mean for specific genres. They mean for everything. And I say, well, what is it you're photographing and what's the background? And tell me the situation. So there's a lot of hints, there's a lot of behaviors, there's a lot of clues about when a system hasn't been mastered. But I have some good news, because the reality is you can master your system, right? Like when you look at some of the greats, whether it be in the sport world, the art world, when you look at greats and leaders, when you look at great authors, you know what they do? They practice their craft over and over and over again. You know, some of my favorite books are like Blood Meridian, No Country for Old Men. And when you look at his prose and you look at how he writes, and yeah, he was a cantankerous old fart. His prose was some of those. It's one of the few fiction books I've ever had to read twice just to take in his prose, Blood Meridian. It's a very violent book, but it's an incredibly beautifully written book. So when you come across someone who masters something, take time to learn. Right? So how do you master your system so that you can master your photography? That's my phrase. That's what I love. The more you master your system, the more you'll master your photography. And those two are bed partners. They go hand in hand, right? It's rare that someone has mastered photography and they don't know crap about their camera. That's really rare. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to need to know how to master your controls. Programming your buttons. I have different buttons programmed differently amongst different custom modes on the same camera body. That means I have to keep track of what button does what as I change custom modes. But for me, that is power, that is flexibility, that is adaptability, but it's also knowledge. I've mastered what button does what and what is going to work best for me in certain situations. For example, the two front buttons, they don't work for me. I accidentally hit them. If I program them to be something, they have to be something that is only on while I'm holding the button. Otherwise, it interferes with my photography. That's mastering my system, okay? Mastering my controls. Then you got to master the menus. So often I hear this from photographers. They're afraid to go into their menu because they don't want to mess something up. That's a clear sign you haven't mastered your system. Make that menu, your servant, right? Get that menu so knowledgeable that you're not only are you not afraid to go in, but you know exactly where to go to make adjustments. For example, you're in the field, you're doing some night sky photography, and you realize you've got your rear monitor on and you realize it's too bright. You know, it's casting too much ambient light and you would like to dim that. I bet many of you would be hunting and pecking forever to make that change. You wouldn't have a clue where to go dim that, okay? How many of you would know, what if I went ahead and programmed a custom mode for night sky photography where I had the monitor brightness and the electronic viewfinder brightness turned down, because live highlight alerts and live histogram don't mean crap when you're taking that long exposure. So rather than lose my night vision by looking through the electronic viewfinder or having too much ambient light scattered abroad, you could already have that set. Now that's mastering your system. And that's mastering your menu. The next thing is mastering your electronic viewfinder and your monitor. There are icons, there is information. I'm amazed how often I pick up somebody's camera and I look through their viewfinder, their monitor, I say, well, where's this? This is a key piece of information. Oh, it's just in the way. Yeah, it's in the way of you getting visually compelling images. That's what it's in the way of. So, you know, I have a very cluttered, I have a lot of information on, because the more information, the more power. That's true for all things in life, right? Assuming it's good and accurate information. Well, once you have great information about your camera, then all those tools become something you control rather than an obstacle for you or something you see as something that's in the way. I too often hear, I'll go, where are your live highlight alerts? I turn them off, they were always in the way, and you just go, oh my gosh, if they only had a clue, right? So, have you mastered battery, sleep, and clock settings? Like sleep settings is very important. I don't want to have to wait on my camera to wake up. That's a pain in the butt, man. That split second, you might miss some activity. So do you just, I bet most of you probably still have the default settings. Most people probably have all three of those, battery, sleep, and clock, just on default, okay? You need to master the recording and playing back image settings. Do you know how to quickly find, if you've taken 5,000 images because you're shooting an SH2 and you're in the Galapagos Islands with me and the bird and flight photography's just been ripping, you know, blue-footed boobies diving and brown naughties pestering, you know, pelicans with a catch and frigate birds soaring by with their pouch inflated or whatever it might be, right? And you need to get to something to see. When I ask you a question, I say, how's your exposure going? And you're like, well, look at this one. And you don't know how to find that, right? Or you don't know how to zoom in or zoom back out. Or you don't know the settings that can affect your image playback or recording. And you're always struggling, you're losing time because you don't know how to do that. Well, you also need to master your exposure modes. You need to understand the extreme limitations. You need to know why, in general, shutter priority is a terrible mode for nature photography. And I guarantee some of y'all are using it because someone told you should. That person, I've stood next to a professional teaching a workshop in Bosque del Apache, and he told everybody to put it in shutter mode. I would have whipped him with a wet noodle, man. The guy sitting next to me is, I'm shooting in manual. I said, keep doing it, and you should be asking for your money back. You're letting go of one of the most powerful creative elements of aperture in anything. I don't know. It's just a silly mode. That tells me people haven't mastered their system, even if they've got the label pro stuck on their name. I don't care. And I know some will disagree with me. Great, disagree. I don't give a rat's butt. So master your autofocus. There's so much more to autofocus than CAF, SAF, back button. There is a ton of settings that come into play that can affect your ability to capture images. Not every setting and subject is the same. Just because we all have subject detection, you know, if you got cameras that have that now, that's not an end-all be-all in every situation. There are still things you need to change and alter, and I can recognize that in an instant. If I can recognize it as I head out to photograph what I need to change and do, okay? You need to master the settings that can impact exposure. So there's exposure modes. There's the trinity of exposure, shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. But there are settings like metering mode. You know, live highlight alerts and live histograms has rendered spot metering to me stupid and irrelevant. Why waste time? I mean, bird and flight, good luck getting a spot metering on a specific spot that you wanted. Just silly. Well, I can attach it to an autofocus mode. Go ahead. It's just a waste of time. You don't need it. It's adding time. It's adding unreliability. But be my guest. But if you master the system, you're not going to worry about those kind of things anymore. You need to master your flash settings if you're going to use flash. Flash seems complicated, but in reality, it's not. There's a few basic functions of physics and controls that make flash pretty easy. But if you don't master the various flash settings in your camera, how to change them quickly, if you don't master the settings on your OM system flashes, you're going to struggle. You need to master the computational photography features. Like, for example, do you know that if you go into live composite, the slowest shutter speed you can have is half a second? Well, if there's too much light and you want to use computational photography features like live composite, you're going to need a neutral density filter to screw on the end because you can't use the live one with live composite. That's a simple example right there. You need to master those settings that are one-offs or miscellaneous features. Every now and then there's that one menu item that's very important, but there's nothing else really related to it. Okay? For example, there's a menu item on the Mark II that's kind of buried that determines that once you go to bulb mode, if you hit the menu button, do you automatically go to that page for live bulb, live time, and live composite settings. That's hidden in another menu item. All right? And then have you mastered not only how and why you should use custom modes, but how to set one up? Do you know some of the limitations on setting up custom modes? Do you know there are a couple of settings that can really affect what happens to your custom mode when you turn your camera off? If you don't know those, you haven't mastered your system. And then finally, there's a couple of errors that can pop up at times. Do you know what those mean when you see them? And because instead of being out in the middle of nowhere with no service and wishing you had a copy of your owner's manual downloaded to your iPhone or whatever. So that's the struggle, is not knowing your system. I often, one guy was asking me, well, I'm not really sure if this, I think I've got this mastered. I'm like, do you know how you have your system mastered? When you can operate it in the complete dark without needing to turn on a flashlight. I'd say that's probably someone who's getting close to mastering their system. If you don't need a flashlight to see where the menu button is, if you don't need a flashlight to reach for your joystick or the multi-controller, if you don't need a flashlight to know how to get into certain menus, right? That is a great example. There are many other examples, but I think that's one of the best. If I should put your camera behind your hand and change the drive mode using the drive mode button on top of the camera, would you know which button to press and would you know which dial to spin to change that drive mode? If you don't, you haven't mastered that you haven't mastered it yet. And that's the beauty of what we're doing, is we always can get better. But I have a good news for you. I have a couple of solutions for you for OM system users on how you can master your system. This is what I think important. So one is, I realized that this was the biggest obstacle several years ago for people. So I decided to create a mentorship program. It's called the OM System Mentorship Program. And it is, as far as I know, the only mentorship program dedicated to a specific camera brand offered by a professional photographer that is a multi-month intense learning experience. I haven't seen any others. Maybe I did Google searches, I tried to find, but as far as I know, this is the only opportunity to learn from someone like this. Why did I do this? Because in my life, whether it was as a transportation planner, a church planner, whatever you want to go through in my life, whatever I've done, whether it's personal, professional, hobby, mentors in my life, all of them spent a lot of time with me. All of them took time to answer my questions. All of them knew that there's no such thing as stupid questions. That what's stupid is when someone is too embarrassed to ask a question. That's what's stupid. Everybody has to learn. Everybody has to make mistakes. And frankly, you learn more from your failures than your successes. So I created this mentorship program because I felt like, given you an extended period of time, you don't master something in a week. You don't master something in one afternoon of reading a camera manual. You master something over time, growing, progressing, expanding your knowledge, expanding your abilities, developing muscle memory. And that is exactly what this mentorship program is designed to do. It's laser focused on mastering your system. I've already had a few folks, looking at the 2024, 2025 session. And I have some, hey, will we be able to see all the notes? No, I don't give all the notes at once. You're not going to master your system if I do that. You're going to try to find answers to very specific solutions. Mastering something is a process. It is a growth. It is an evolution. It's not finding very specific answers to very specific questions on different topics to solve a problem right here. That's not mastering something. Okay? That's solving a problem, which is a great thing in photography. We need to do that. So I want this mentorship program to be the following: extended, intense at times, hit all the different learning styles. So it's going to be visual, auditory, and hands-on. So it will offer videos, live group Zoom sessions, private Zoom sessions over a period of time where we can interact with one another, because a mentorship program is not the same thing as a class. A class is me sitting behind a camera teaching you, and then you go do with it whatever you want. Kind of like YouTube videos, right? But a mentorship program is an exchange. It's a back and forth. And it's a relationship invested in learning. That's the difference, okay? A relationship invested in learning always going to be more beneficial than just knowledge to fix a specific situation in a specific moment. So this mentorship program is going to start, the first session will be October 4th of 2024. Now, I had folks who had already contacted me wanting to sign up, and I did an early enrollment. Well, I already have 7 out of 12 spots filled, so there's only 5 spots remaining for the 2024-2025 session. If I get a lot of demand, I will add a second session with different dates. But what can you expect? You'll get out of it what you put in. I've been blown away by the improvement I've seen in the photography of several folks in the first session. Exposure, they're nailing it every single time. Focus, they're getting there where they have the confidence. And once you master your system, then you can move on to what will eventually be the second part of this mentorship program, which will be the creative elements. So right now, the first mentorship program is about the technical elements. Master your system, okay? And that's the first stage. If you go try to master post-processing, but you haven't mastered your system, well, you're getting the cart a little bit ahead of the horse. Not that that's irrelevant or unimportant. It's very important. And you know, I have a second option for people to master their system, and that is I created OM System Only workshops. These workshops are designed to help you with specific genres, okay, of photography. So the beauty of the mentorship program is it's about the same price or cheaper than a week-long workshop. Workshops are fun. You're out in the field at phenomenal spots with birds in flight or landscape or macro. That's an awesome experience. Don't get me wrong. And you will learn a lot. I had a lady come to my OM System Only Mastering Bird in Flight photography workshop in Florida this year. And she said, I've never learned anywhere near as much at any other workshop. And she was going with another one of our phenomenal photography leaders at Wildside to the Faroe Islands. She was joining Elise Bender and going out there, and she wanted to come master her system before she went there. I mean, duh, that seems pretty smart to me. So the thing is, in a week, I can teach you a lot related to that specific genre. So if it's a Mastering Bird and Flight workshop, though, and you want to know about macro, I'm not going to talk about it. That's not the purpose of that workshop, okay? So the mentorship program is to help you master your system. But I have OM System Only workshops where you can master some elements of your system related to specific genres of photography. So they both go hand in hand. In fact, my 2-week Grand Teton Yellowstone in fall, it's full for 2024. And everybody that signed up for it, guess what? They were in the mentorship program because they see the value now of joining me in the field after the mentorship program to expand on their ability. One lady's coming all the way from Australia. Helen is coming to join me because she can't find workshop leaders down there that shoot OM System, and she knows how beneficial it'll be. These two aspects, and of course, I know you enjoy watching my YouTube videos, and I'm trying to make sure they're educational and informative and fun, but they hit the specific problem generally with a specific solution, which is great, and that is going to add to your knowledge. But I can't do enough videos over even a 3-year period to get you to master your system like I can over a 6 to maybe 9-month period in a mentorship program. So here's what I'm going to do for those of you that are watching this video within the first week of its release. I'm going to open registration, okay? So if you're watching this video, Sunday night, all right, at 5 p.m. Central Time, I'm going to open registration. And the first 5 people will fill those spots. Now, what you gotta know is once you register, there's no refunds for any reason. I mean, you're taking a spot. I don't wanna have to try to refill it, so you need to make sure you can commit to that. The good news is everything is recorded. All of the items, the notes, the pre-session videos, the project videos, all of the Zoom sessions, both public and private, will be recorded, and they will be available to you for as long as our society goes and you're alive and you're still shooting. Those will be available. So it's not only during the time of the mentorship program, but it's after. So you will always have that kind of access. That's important to understand. I really hope you'll consider joining me. Again, this Sunday, 5 p.m., I'm going to open up registration. If you try to register and it's full, I need you to contact me with your name, because if I get enough people, I will set a second date, series for us to have a second mentorship program. I would love nothing more than to offer 2 of them, because to be honest, I love it. I believe it's incredibly effective. It's a lot of fun and you're going to enjoy it. So, hope this has been a beneficial video. I hope it's made you think about your gear, how you're going to use it, how you're going to master it, what you need to do. I also realize that for some of you, financially, you have limitations. I respect that fully. I hope through my YouTube channel that you will continue to learn. There are other great OM System ambassadors with YouTube channels out there. Emily Taupin, you've got Tom and Lisa Kachora, you've got now I'm trying to think of the other OM System ambassador that it just left me. So there are plenty other ones that do YouTube or videos or teachings and trainings that you can learn from as well with free resources. So if you watch my channel, first off, you're a part of my online community, which means I really appreciate you. Second of all, if you watch my channel, you need to know my gratitude, my heartfelt thanks. I appreciate those of you that give the super thanks. That means a lot. It lets me know how beneficial this channel is. You guys know I don't beg for subscribes, likes, shares, all that kind of stuff. But you know what? If you like my channel and you know other OM System photographers, I would be indebted to you if you'd let them know about this channel. If you truly enjoy it, please share it. It helps me out and it lets me keep bringing you phenomenal videos. All right, guys, get out there. Let's master those systems and let's master our photography.